Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols Plus, a PlayStation podcast supplement. My name is Colin Moriarty. Today I'm joined by a very special and frankly unusual guest for this show to have alone, but we want to do this for a very specific reason. We talked about it previously on an episode, but Lord Cognito of Defining Duke and the Iron Lords, of course. Welcome, my friend.
What's going on, Colin? What's up, brother? I'm glad you hit me up for this one. It's a subject that I feel is long overdue in our community, and I'm excited, man. I'm excited to talk about this. So yeah, let's have some fun, man. The Sacred Symbols Plus.
yeah. I'm looking forward to this. As people know, if they've obviously are tuning in and seen the title of this is and the description is. I don't remember where it was because I record so many shows, but Cog and I think I might have just emailed him or had this idea. Yeah, it might have just been an email where I sent him a couple weeks ago and was saying, let's talk about health and wellness. This is obviously something you're well known for. In fact, I think it was because you always tweet your pictures at the gym and the supplements you're taking and all the different things, which I think is awesome and really motivational. And I'm certain helps someone out there. And I'm kind of, not that I'm like the fittest person in the world, but I do care about health. I'm an athletic person. I've always been a sports-minded person and work out every day and in probably the best shape of my life in a lot of different ways, which is cool. I think I could shed a little bit of weight, but I'll talk about that. And I feel like there's not enough, how do I put this without being too, putting people off? It's like, I think there's something to body positivity that's very good. Right? Like accepting who you are, accepting yourself in your skin. Mm-hmm. But I think that part of it goes a little too far, especially in some of our entertainment mediums like the gaming industry, movies, TV, where I don't want people to have to beautify themselves and live up to a standard, but I want them to take care of themselves. And I feel like people are kind of conflating those two things. And I know that you're the most mindful, health-minded person on all of our shows. And I know there are others too. Maddie plays hockey, for instance, and is obviously an athlete. He's just, busy, and I would have maybe invited him on this as well, but I don't want to get too crazy with it. But that's kind of the premise that I was thinking of. How did that strike you when you got that email? Because I want to just talk about it and get it out there. Very similar to what we do with mental health. Mm-hmm. Why not do it with physical health too? Not to say live by my standard, because I don't have very high standards, and you probably want to live at an even higher standard than I do, but to say like, keep an eye on those standards and keep an eye on yourself. So what do you think of that?
Look, I'm so glad you hit me up for this, because this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time, as the mindset of the gamer. I come from the era, and you yourself as well. We get our favorite game, something that we've been really looking forward to for a long time, and I call it the Blaze session. Right. So it's like, okay, I'm going to set aside this whole weekend or this whole bit of time. It's going to be long hours. It's going to be me sitting stationary, right? Playing something I love, looking at a screen for a long amount of time. So there's a lot of factors involved. One, obviously the sleep, right? How sometimes we are sleep deprived. We're going extra hard. What we're eating, right? A lot of times, let's be honest, I'm from the era where you had the Red Bull, you had the chips, it's sure. Whatever's quick and accessible, right? During this period. And then it's just, it's more of a, we're not moving. We're really being stationary for this a long amount of time. And the last part is, and I've had this discussion on ILP, especially for me specifically, is, staring at a screen, right? There is something to that. Staring at a screen for a long period of time. I've had eye doctors on, to talk about that and just how we can do better as gamers. So overall, the mentality is, look, we love this passion. Gaming is an escape from a lot of things. And gaming is good. I'm not here to vilify it, of course. This is what made me. Gaming is my heart. But there are some trepidations long term. If we let get out of hand, could do damage. And that's my main thing, is that we have to be cognizant of it, and we have to do some things to try to better ourselves in this space. And thus, the whole health is wealth and earning the right to game kind of started for me.
Yeah, earning the right to game is awesome. And I think I'm somewhat blessed of having like what I always call as adult onset ADD, because I never was like attention deficit at all in my younger years. But in my 30s, I'm just totally getting more and more wired. I think it has a lot to do with phones and all these things. So a game really has to grab me for me to even play it for more than like 5 hours at a time without getting distracted by something. I think the last game that really truly like floored me was The Last of Us Part 2, where I was like, I'm just playing this. But That was in 2020, so it really goes to show you, like, I do take my time to get through games, and I don't have that same obsessiveness that I do when I was a kid, which I'm grateful for, because I want to have that obsessiveness. You know, the fantasy of the weekend with the game, but I know that has to come with a bunch of other things too if I'm going to be okay. But I wanted to ask you to kind of start things out, Cog. Like, I'm curious how you grew up, because and how, like, if there was a precedent set for you, because for me, the youngest of 4, 2 parents, divorced early, all of the rest. I was athletic and I played sports, so I think that really helped me keep a lean body and a strong body and all of that. And I took naturally to those things, whether it was hockey or baseball or whatever. But I also feel like my parents didn't give 2 shits what I ate and couldn't care less if they wanted me out of the house. They didn't care what I was doing. It wasn't like specifically like, go play because I want you to be well. It's like, get the fuck out of here, you know? And so I would do that kind of stuff. And so I think back about it and I'm like, I used to just drink. I remember just making, you know, like Minute Maid lemonade, the powder or whatever.
Powder,
you just take a scoop of that in a glass, you know, and drink that, or eating before hockey games, eating entire Lipton noodle, like the butter noodle bags that probably have 3,000 calories in them. And I would just eat the whole thing, you know, and then go play hockey. It was like disgusting, right? Or in my 20s or my early 20s, where I would just drink a lot, and you would think that, and I just never gained weight until I suddenly did. And I'm curious, did your family set a precedent for you for wellness? Because though my family was like, go play sports, go be well, they didn't really micromanage it to the point where I wonder if it was just the nature of growing up in the 80s and into the 90s that kept me more well. I would have probably been really fucked if I was growing up today. Seriously, like I couldn't imagine. When I got a computer in my room in high school, I was like, in the 90s, I was like, this is insane. I'm never leaving again. So I can only imagine that happening from birth, basically.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question. For me, grew up single parent household, mostly with my mom. My mom and dad was separated pretty young. So what it was for me is health wasn't really talked about. I mean, my mom tried to cook healthy with, you know, obviously she had, she didn't like, I didn't feel like she fed me and did stuff that got me out of pocket. But similar to you, I was extremely athletic. So I was in this weird pocket. Like I used to play sports. I used to play basketball. I used to run point guard. And then I also used to play football a lot, you know, running back and cornerback and stuff like that. So I was always in the tournaments, and I was in this weird pocket where at school, I'm cool with the jocks. I'm cool with because they like that. Well, he could play, right? But I would get in trouble because like I was a kid who was really smart, but like I would procrastinate, and then the teachers would tell my mom, like, look, he's smart, but every marking period, he's got all these people around him. He's talking with all the nerds about the games. So they tried to take the games away from me at a young age because I just got so consumed. And then I was in this other weird pocket where it's like the jocks, you know, tend to be the goons and they tend to be the bullies towards the nerds. And I'm like, no, these are my guys. Like, we play Genesis together. We play, like, you're not doing that. So I was always in that pocket in the middle, like this, you know, between both sides. But as far as to your question specifically, you know, like I was very skinny growing up. Like I was like maybe 130, 140. My metabolism was really high.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I could just eat. I would eat more than like all the biggest people I know. I had a huge appetite, but I wouldn't gain any weight. So I just lived with that curse for a long time until I got older. So yeah, pretty much at that time I could just do what I want, like soda, sugary, high fructose corn syrup stuff, fast food like crazy.
Oh God, I love it.
Oh my God, like all that stuff. Like I would just kill that stuff. And now it's funny looking back now because if I even sip a soda, I can taste all the sugar now because I've been abstaining for so long. So those are the things growing up where I realized I really wasn't taking care of myself. I was just, you know, privy to, you know, my metabolism and being young and able to power through that kind of stuff before I made changes on my diet and stuff.
Yeah, but it's so funny you say that because I had friends where you'd eat over their house or whatever. And I remember I had a specific friend where they all drank milk with their dinner. Like that was important. You know, and you had to like finish all the food on your plate. It was like very high stress, you know?
Damn.
And they were great. They were nice people, but it was so different than my house where it's like, oh, my dad would come in with like 6 Coke 2-liter being like, they're 79 cents each. Here you guys go. You know, like he wouldn't give a shit.
From that era.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he didn't care at all. And
yes.
And it's not to say he was negligent. It's just like that was kind of, I just felt that was the way it was. Lots of random frozen bagels and Entenmann's and
oh, I remember Entenmann's.
Yeah, you know, like a crumb cake and the donuts and all that. And it's exactly like you say, my metabolism really fooled me into thinking especially without wisdom, that I could just do this forever. Because as I've told the story many times on different shows over the years, when I got to IGN, like after a year, I started really gaining weight out of nowhere. But it wasn't out of nowhere because I was like, holy shit. I mean, the kinds of things I used to do, I would like leave IGN, get on my scooter, go to McDonald's, get like $20 worth of McDonald's, like a double quarter pounder cheese, literally double quarter pounder cheese meal, 2 cheeseburgers, 20 a chicken nugget, you know, like seriously. And that was how I used to eat in college. And I just didn't care. I would just feast and gorge. And then I wish I had the picture because it's actually kind of embarrassing. My ex at the time, we lived together in this in-law apartment, and I was cooking chicken cutlets, and I had no shirt on, and I was just in my underwear, and it was funny. But she took a picture of me, and I'm like, holy shit!
You see your physical, yeah.
And at that point, so that was 2010ish, and at that point, I was almost 200 pounds. I want to say, which I almost am now, but it was just different. It was just different. Yeah, a little different. And I really got urgent about it, where I was like, I got to do something about this. I actually remember what I did. I didn't have very much money at the time. I went and got like workout sneakers and started like walking in the woods and playing basketball in the neighborhood, like basketball court, because I love just shooting hoops and just doing things naturally, and then trying not to eat so much. And that was a major thing for me, because I think I have a problem with food. I think I've managed to really narrow it down, as I often say, by doing OMAD, and really just a bastardized version of it, giving myself just a few hours a day to actually eat, and just saying, you're not eating the rest of the day. So like, do what you want, you know, like what you feel like you want to do, but understand that it's going to be cut off and you're done. And I've really lived by that. Some people say that that's actually making me heavier, but I think that it's stopping me from feasting and snacking all of the time. So I love hearing the different stories about how people grew up. It's just so interesting how passive my parents were. They were great parents, but they just, nutrition, that just didn't seem like and I don't like sweets. I don't eat crazy things. I'm not really a chocolate guy or a candy guy at all or anything. We ate good meals, but it just didn't seem like, no one ever said anything to me about it.
It's funny you said, I like the point you said about like your dad with the 79-cent sodas. My mom was the same way. So like, it was from the era, if you really think about it, the way bad food is constructed is always inexpensive, right? And at the time, it's all about saving money. So it was just like, hey, we could get all of this for this price, right? You get the Entenmann's. I remember these little things called table talks my mom used to get. And again, it was just really like small little miniature apple pies, things of that nature. And all of what I realized, this is why it's very hard for fitness and very hard for health and eating well. A lot of the stuff that is bad for you is easily accessible and cheap. And you have to go out of your way to find healthy stuff and to kind of accumulate that and stock it in the house, so that when you have that craving, because I don't know about you, Colin, like when it's late and if I'm hungry, I don't care. Like I'm eating whatever. Like that's how my mentality is. And it's trying to get myself out of it. Like, look, you got to prepare to have good stuff around you. Otherwise, you're going to fall back into the traps of the stuff you've been doing. But yeah, that's a good point about the sales and how cheap things are, or everything that's technically not good for you, so to speak.
Yeah, and it kind of does suck that. I mean, I like a lot of healthy food. I like salads and things like that. Like I really do. But it is a shame that the things that are most tantalizing are why does it have to be that way? It's just so frustrating. Your body wants what it really shouldn't have, or at least it thinks it needs it based on the scarcity model that doesn't exist anymore. And your body doesn't know any better. It thinks it's a caveman. So, which is why our minds are so fucked up from these screens and stuff too. So I always just think about those kinds of things too. You're absolutely right. And I don't know if you see the pictures, you know, of the 19th century circulated sometimes, and you see like this was Barnum and Bailey's fattest man, and people would come see him, and he's nothing. It's like a dude you would see in Walmart, you know. And like it wasn't even possible to really get as heavy as people are getting today. Like, how would you even do it? Because there none of these chemicals and like you said, the high fructose corn syrup, which I always looked at back when I was a kid. I was like, high fructose corn, and in my college years, it's like high fructose corn syrup is actually like a really great revolution, because it makes it so that we don't have to buy sugar, which is awesome. But we just abuse the shit out of it because we have so much corn. That it's insane. Like I actually personally think Coke and Pepsi taste better with high fructose corn syrup than the sugar versions of it and all of that. But I think that's a very American palate. But it's so interesting. Nonetheless, I find it so fascinating. You and I had a similar upbringing where it didn't really seem relevant, but no one became concerned about it because we were athletes, and so it was shedding those pounds. And I also think you're a little older than me, but you probably had the same experience where I think about the quote unquote fat kid in my class, right? Like in my grade. and he was picked on, and it was sad, and I feel bad about all. I mean, not that I was really a participant, but it's just like I don't know. You think back on these things, and you probably think the person's still scarred by them today, but
Yeah.
he wasn't that big.
Yeah.
You know, like now you see people today, and it's like, man, oh man, dude,
Yeah,
like what is going on with these young people? So, talk to me a little bit about when you became kind of cognizant of health in your adult life and how you started to kind of wrap around it. Because, like you said, there are these three different components: the sleep, the diet, and the exercise. And I'm all about the exercise component, particularly because I feel like it's a little bit of a cop out, because they say diet is really everything, and I'm like, yeah, I can do a little bit about that, but the exercise I can definitely do, and I feel good about that, and it also helps me with my depression and my anxiety and all the rest. But when did you become aware of this stuff, or were you always working out? Because I never lifted weights until I was in my 30s. Like, I never once. When I used to go to my hockey team, I played on high level hockey teams, and we would work out and do all these things, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah,
lifting shit. You know, like I'm not. I'm fast and spry. That's what you want me. I don't need to be strong. I'm just going to go skate and do all this kind of stuff. So I literally never seriously lifted a weight until 2021.
We're very similar, because I was the quick kid. I was the fastest kid, like in the neighborhood and all that stuff. So to me, working out really was never a priority. And then people would tell me, oh, you got wide shoulders if you lift it, bro. And I'm just like, if I decide to do it, it wouldn't be for me, not because anybody wanted me or someone I'm dating wanted that kind of thing. So it's like my focus was always speed. Now I get older, obviously, people move away, or my friendship circle. And then actually I started to have some physical, I had like some really bad issues with my Achilles tendon. And that actually derailed my sports career, because I was having that. And then I was going through like arthritic issues. And this was young, and they couldn't figure it out. They were like, yo, what's going on? I would wake up, I would have to get like stuff for my, I have heel spurs, and they would have to put something on the bottom of my shoes. Because the minute I would wake up and get out of bed and put my feet on the ground, it was the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my life. So I didn't know what was going on. And that was like, my body was breaking down. It was just going through things. So that's what kind of started, okay, I got to see what's going on. Now we fast forward, we get older. Now the metabolism is slowing down. Mm-hmm. Now here comes the belly. Here comes things. And I'm just like, okay. And I think for me, the biggest thing was I wanted to go to the gym, but as the skinny kid, I'll be honest with you, kind of like I was very intimidated. Like, the few times I did go, everyone's bigger than you. We don't want people looking at you. Like, I was very self-conscious about, the gym was a very intimidating place. So that didn't sit well with me at first. And then someone said, well, maybe you need to try like a physical trainer or something, like just to kind of jumpstart you to get your confidence up. And that did help a little bit. And I worked with someone, but after a while, I'm like, okay, this is a scam. A lot of this stuff, you're just extending the minutes longer. I could do a lot of this myself, but I started to research and then do stuff myself. But it honestly came from noticing my changes in my body when I was getting older, and then really analyzing what, as much as I gain, as hardcore as I gain, I was realizing like, this ain't probably the healthiest thing that I'm doing, and I need to make some changes, because I don't like the way I'm looking and I don't like the way I'm feeling. So that probably prompted it. And then I could give you some examples of actually in gaming where some things really actually helped me to shed some of that fear and to get my confidence up to start doing it. And you're gonna laugh, but I gotta give credit to Xbox Connect.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say Ring Fit, I think, was the most recent example of that, where people really, there's these random games that really help people actually do it.
Bro, let me tell you, Connect, the first iteration had the 360 version had a game from EA. It was called like EA Active, right? It was like EA Active 2. And it was like, it came with like a wristband that had a heart sensor, right? And the Connect would try to track your movements. And they would have like a lot of dynamic kind of polymetric kind of stuff where it would be like, okay, let's do good morning, let's do high knees, and it was it was fairly accurate. There were times I'm like, bro, I'm doing the exercise correctly and you're not giving me credit.
Right.
So it's like, you go through that, but I will say it was intense, man. It was really intense. And I started to get into a pattern of saying, all right, every other day, at least do this, at least do something, right? And yeah, it would be planks, it would be variations, and they would gamify certain things. They would like, okay, use your feet and act like you're kicking like a soccer ball into these goals. And that really tore me up. I was getting like drenched in sweat. I would set the whole living room aside. I'd put everything, because Connect, you needed a
right.
But they claim a small room can have you needed the whole damn living room to do this thing. But I still committed, and that's what really got me into the cardio aspect, because that's the thing I want to say. The weight training is something that I felt was like, even though I knew it was hard to do, I was like, it was something desirable because I looked at the end result. Cardio, as much as what I needed to do it, I hated it. I hated it. So for me to get through that, I gamified. And also, I think you alluded to earlier, I had to get into a mindset, which is like, yo, let me go to Modell's. Let me pick up like a cool looking short set or athletic top. So now or get a cool pair of trainers, cool Nike Air Max, cool. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to gym. I'm looking fly. I'm doing cardio. I'm like, it's incentivizing me to do the thing I hate because I feel I look good doing it. So that was how I would do mental tricks to kind of to get through these hurdles, to do the things I didn't necessarily want to do because I now feel better about myself. But those were the early journeys. And I got to connect that. And I got to give Xbox's worst generation the credit too, because to me, Connect Fitness on Connect 2 took it to the next level. And that, because it had the heartbeat monitoring, it was way more accurate with training. And I believe Xbox Fitness, which sadly is discontinued, they actually had like Shaun T from, you had the P90X stuff, you had the Insanity, like the real trick. Bro, it was killing me, but I was consistent, and I was just like, you know what? This is fun. And then all of this helped me now to say, okay, once it was discontinued, you could continue this and go have a gym membership and like really go hard at it. And that's when I really started to fully commit to the gym. But it was a struggle between, as a gamer, getting to the gym because it was an intimidating place for me. But these are the little tricks that I used to do to kind of get me going.
It's funny because when I went to Northeastern, we had anyone that's familiar with that college knows it has an insane gym called Marino Center. That's on the corner of Huntington and Forsyth, I think, in Boston. And I never stepped foot into that place the entire time I was there. Like, it is literally like huge, like all the windows, many stories in the middle of the city with all these windows and everyone working out. And you can see everyone doing all their things. And I'm like, I never stepped foot into that fucking place.
Mm-hmm.
I was a landscaper during college and a groundskeeper. So I was constantly active, and I still had that good metabolism, right? I ate like shit during college constantly. I also drank a ton during college. And that's when I started smoking weed. A lot too. And so I had a lot of things working against me, but that's also when I picked up running because I always liked to run. My sister Dana is actually a somewhat prolific runner in her teen and early 20 years, like in high school and in college.
Mm-hmm.
And she still runs marathons. She actually just did her first full marathon, and she's in her mid 40s. So I was like, that's an amazing thing or whatever. 3 kids, all the rest. But she used to ask me because she knew I was athletic, and I used to have hockey practice in the mornings and all this kind of stuff. So I was always around, and she would come home from college and be like, you want to go running? We would run down to our old high school and run around the track and all that. And I just always really enjoyed it. So I was kind of embarrassed working out in front of people for some reason. So I bought workout shoes in college, and I would run around Back Bay in Boston, which is in the Fenway. Yeah. And I used to do that, which is right near Northeastern. And I started really doing that. And then, so I was feeling good, but then when I moved to San Francisco, I just stopped working out, drinking a ton, sitting at a desk for the first time in my life, just tired all the time. And then realizing that I also just ate really, I mean, it was heinous. Like, it was really giving into like, what are you even doing? I remember when I was still skinny, I was 150 pounds soaking wet or whatever. And I would move to California. I would literally make like 2 cheese quesadillas every night and eat them in bed with a glass of orange juice and like watch whatever I was watching on Netflix on my little TV. And that was like after dinner, and things like that. And it's like, well, no surprise. I mean, I had no regard for my body at all. And which is, again, why I really wanted to do this podcast, which is to remind people, like, you should definitely have a regard for your body. So people will find this funny that as I got heavier, I just started eating less and started just trying to move around more. And it really did start to moderate, but I wasn't quite where I wanted to be. So in 2011, when I get an idea into my head and I know that it's what I want to do, it's not like some flight of fancy. I get really aggressive about just getting it done. So An example is like when I found out I had skin cancer in 2010 or 2011, it was in like mid-December, right? And they were like, okay, so you have cancer. It's nothing crazy to worry about, but we got to take it off. We can do it, the surgery, in the next few days, but you're going to have a huge scar and a huge bandage for weeks into New Year's and all that, but we should probably do it in January. So I'm like, no, let's do it. And I did it 2 days later just to get it out of the way. And so a similar thing happened with me. I was watching like the NFL playoffs in 2011, and I don't know if I saw a commercial or something, and I saw something for an elliptical, and I was like, I want to go get an elliptical. So after the game ended, Greg Miller and I went to Sears and got a random elliptical that I found there and I liked, and I carried it into my building. I actually dropped the box through the wall in the hallway, destroying the wall, and had to get it fixed. Because we lifted it up and then tried to like lean the machine on it as it just fell right through the wall, like into like right through the drywall.
Yeah.
And we had like this Chinese first generation immigrant landlord above us who was really nice, but like couldn't quite communicate right with him, and he was freaking out. But I got this thing in the house, and we lived in a fairly big apartment for San Francisco, and so we were able to kind of tuck it towards a window, and I just used it. I started using it every day before work, and I started getting skinny again, and I realized that I was good at exercise, that it was good for my knees because my legs are kind of fucked up from hockey. And as far as I understand, an elliptical is the least impact per highest calorie burn, like cardio exercise that you can do. In other words, if you're going really, really hard on the elliptical and your heart is pumping like beyond like what your body could do if you were running, it's got like a similar effect to what you're trying to get. And so I learned that pretty quickly, and then started doing it backwards. And then what I'm really into now is high impact training on it, which is like 1 minute normal, 1 minute hard, 1 minute backwards, 1 minute normal, 1 minute hard, 1 minute backwards, and just doing that over and over and over again for a half an hour, an hour. I do that every day. So that was when I really discovered cardio, and I didn't discover weightlifting, and I'll get to that until later, mostly because I didn't really think I would enjoy it, but I actually do. And I want to talk about that too. But where are you with cardio? Do you enjoy cardio? Because you were at one time. It's funny because I do know that there is a conflict in weightlifting with cardio because it burns your muscle, or it could burn muscle. It could counteract everything you're doing. And it's also time spent where you could just be buffing out things. It's like leg day, right? It's like everyone wants to do their abs and their arms and all that kind of stuff. So I know that there's some consternation against that. But the one thing I will say per my health, because I go in there like your cholesterol's a little high, you know, this, that, and the other thing, you got a little bit of a gut going on. Every time though, they're like, your blood pressure is perfect. That's like key. Perfect. And that comes from the cardio.
No, you're
and
right.
Also I smoke weed, and I think I have this headcanon where that helps me like counteract the effects on my lungs, even though I probably am going to have both dementia and fucking lung cancer when I'm older. But nonetheless, where are you on cardio specifically before we get to weightlifting?
So glad you mentioned. Yeah, that was the struggle, because once I hit the gym, now I'm in my anxiety's down about people looking at me. It slowly start to get my confidence up, because now I'm able to go to the gym a little bit more consistent. And I'll be honest, like I still would pick times where it was like low traffic, like really late. So I have the gym all to myself, and you don't want to see all the bigger dudes, say, excuse me, little man, let me get the weed over here. You got to deal with that stuff. So, but then I get my confidence up. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm here. And I get into a weight training zone, right? Now, like you said, I'm getting in the zone. I go from maybe 150 to about a year and a half to about 170. I'm starting to put on muscle. People are seeing the difference. And I'm really training hard. I'm watching videos of proper form and a lot of top pros and stuff like that. And I think I started, that's when I started creatine. I was like, all right, let me incorporate creatine into my diet. And as far as my training, and I really started to get an improvement there. So now I'm improving, but my cardio's terrible, right? And people are like, yo, you have to do cardio. And I just hated it. So no matter what tricks, I wish I could run long distances without mentally wanting to be like, I want this over. I can't, it was really that much of a struggle. So what ends up happening is the change starts where genetically, I got to be honest, like my with Black families and my mom especially, blood pressure is a thing. High blood pressure is a thing. And now blood pressure is coming, it's slightly elevated, they would tell me, also stress, all that stuff contributes to it. Then my mom, and then, so it's like a, family thing in conjunction, with genetics. So now I'm like, all right, I have to address this. So I'm researching things I could do. And people are like, it's cardio. So like you, I'm like, you know what? I have to set my mind to like, do you want to live? Do you want to be around? You have high blood pressure, right? Here is literally the answer to doing what you need to do to solve it, but you're BSing. So let's get it done. So what I did is I said, the same tricks I used to do, I'm going to get good running shoes. I'm going to get a nice track outfit. I'm going to hit this treadmill, right? Because I couldn't do the track. Track was like still too hard for me, but I was like, I'm going to hit this treadmill. But the key for me, and you'll appreciate this because you'll see my post, was music. So I was like, okay, get an iPod, get the headphones on, and there's something about, you know, you're playing Final Fantasy VII battle music. I remember what I was doing. It's an emotional, and now I'm in. I'm like, okay, it's fun. I'm looking forward to my favorite song. And surprisingly, even though I'm a hip hop guy, I can't really do cardio to hip hop because I'm too busy saying the words and I'm out of breath.
Yeah, totally.
So for me, it became like techno, pop, alternative, rock music sometimes, like, and video game music, and especially video game music, because video game music, it takes you right to where you were, what you were doing, that tough boss fights, some really inspirational thing, and you start, sometimes I get emotional. I'm like, I remember this, bro. This is when I fought, Sephiroth or whatever. Like you remember what you were doing, and that was the key. Then I became looking forward to it. Then I built a playlist, right? And now it's like, okay, I'm excited to do cardio now because who knows what song's going to come up, evoke whatever emotion, help me power through. And to your point, what really helped me was HIIT, which was the high interval impact training. So I would start off, because I hated cardio. So what I just build I would go like at 3.0 at the treadmill and just do a steady walk with a 3.0 incline, make it a little harder. And then what I would do is I would ramp up to almost like a full on sprint. Let's say that was 8.0 speed wise, right? Do that for about a minute to 2 minutes straight. Stop, 2 minutes, walk. Heart's elevated, the heart's going. It's still, you know what I mean? And then it's like, damn, I got another. So I would do this my goal was 10 minutes and then build endurance, then hopefully get to 15 and get to 20. But those are the tricks, man. That's what really helped me through. And the last thing I would say, in reference to cardio specifically, where I finally got into a good pocket, and now we get to the pandemic. So the pandemic really crushed me, Colin, because can't go to the gym. I don't have really good exercise equipment at home or anything. I hate working out in my house, to be honest. I'm not really that guy. So what I did, what I compensated for that was that I had a mountain bike. I would take the bike to the local track. I would ride to the track, lock my bike down, and then I would walk. And then I guess we could get into the whole, when I started posting, because King, my co-host, he was like, look, bro, you do a lot of stuff that inspires people. You're too private. You need to, he said, if people see what you do, you could help others. You don't even realize that. And I'm like, I don't know about all this social media. I was kind of resistant. And what I remember, people who follow my time are going to remember what I'm about to say right now. There was, during the height of the pandemic, I was extremely depressed. A lot was going wrong with me. And I was just, job-wise, everything. It was like everything at once combined during the pandemic. And I'm out of shape. I'm overweight. And this whole thing, I can't do what I want to do. So basically what I did is I would just grab my phone and I started this series, like it was called Walk With Me. And I would just talk. I'm like, yo, I know everybody going through what I'm going through right now. We all hate it, and I would just walk on the track. And then I'm just like, look, I'm out here. I'm trying to make the best of this. And they start to catch on. And people were like, yo, God, we love when you do this. And King was like, see, I told you, people love when you do this stuff. And that's when it kind of opened me up to being a little bit more, visible with saying, hey, I'm going through something, and I think that's part of it. Like we, as men, we're too tough. We too, we don't want to admit, yo, I'm depressed. Yo, I'm physically not doing well, that kind of thing. And that's what really started to change. And then once I just kept that going up until the pandemic, eventually lessened and we was able to go back to the gyms. But that's what started my visibility with the cardio and letting people know what's going on. And hey, you could get out. If I could do it, you could do it kind of energy,
I think it's important to do sometimes, like, because I think sometimes that kind of help yourself energy becomes someone's entire persona, which then I think becomes fake in some way or self-congratulatory in some way, if that makes sense. But and you don't like it just, I guess what I'm saying is breaking out of the parameters of what you're comfortable sharing is sometimes important for other people, especially in positions of minor internet celebrity like we have, where it could really help someone. And I just know that I don't want to talk about, the reason I talk about being depressed is not because I wanted to wear it on my sleeve. It's because I've gotten so many messages over the years of like literally hundreds of people privately reaching out being like, I went and saw a psychiatrist because of you. I went and saw a psychologist. I went and, opened my mind to therapy and all of that. And you just realize it's kind of worth it. That's why I think this podcast is a similar thing of just talking about it so that people keep it in mind, because I think there's just so many things that people aren't thinking about. And when I see these statistics about obesity in the United States and sedentariness and all the rest. It's like,
Mhm.
man, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, please.
And also, just to quickly, I'm glad you said that. And where it really hit home is not that this is a gaming specific topic, but suicide, bro. It's big. Rest in peace, Lord Whiskey. This was a kid who joined Iron Lord's Gaming, and we were really close with him. His dream was to like go to a press conference and and go to E3, and I was like, bro, we could easily do that. Like, bro, we will get media. You got to work to work. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to move a camera around. And he learned all this stuff. He went. And he was an ex-military guy, and wasn't the most fit guy. But I used to be on him like, hey man, we got to move around, and he would kind of procrastinate. But anyway, long story short, he I have to divulge this. This is really tough, but it hits because he wasn't taking good care of himself. I was on him about, I'm like, look, bro, I'm concerned. Like, you're very young. You're way younger than me. You're always in pain. You're always a lot. Like, we need to at least address it. And I guess from his background, that's a sign of weakness. No, dude, I'm a power through. And then I'll never forget. It was like in my Discord, and I got a message from him that really didn't sit well with me. And he was just like, hey, Cog, I really appreciate it. I love everything you guys do for me. And I just wanted to know that, I love you guys, and, you are always special to me. But it was kind of a very final message. And my spider sense went off, and I'm just like, look, Whiskey, what's up, bro? Like, you don't sound good. Are you okay? And I didn't get anything back. So I slept on it. I knew it was weird, but I was just like, all right, I'll speak to him the next day. For 2-3 days, nothing, no contact. Then maybe 4 days later, I get a message and says, hey, Cog, your Whiskey's friend, I just want to let you know that he took his life. But he left a lot of things. He had like a Iron Will podcast shirt. He said you meant so much to him, but he killed himself. And it just showed me how like influential we are and the impact that we have on people, and that people are suffering in silence, and it's whatever they're willing to share. And it tore me up. I went to his funeral in DC. This is the family. And it was, you could tell he was battling so many things on top of the physical things and all the rest. And this was one of the few things that gave him a little joy, was just talking gaming with us, and, being in gaming parties and Xbox Live parties, and going to conventions. And yeah, it tore me apart. And from that point on, that's when I said, I got to stop with not the tough guy stuff, the men stuff, the machismo stuff. Yo, I'm going through something. Like, it's okay, men, for us to say it, because this was an example of a guy that, for the most part, from the outside, the external, everything looked fine. And he was, a pillar of strength, and he did that. And I miss him. And I wanted to mention, because it was kind of fitness related, and I used to be on him about that. And I'm glad, as a result, more people know the story, and now realize, hey, mental health, physical health, all this is related. This is all, part of our journey as gamers and stuff. And it's a community. We're all gamers. We all love this thing, regardless to what platform you like. Yeah, one will have a preference more than the other, but at the end of the day, we're all brothers and sisters in this thing. So there's just one thing I want to mention, that, suicide is something that we definitely, have to account for in this community, in conjunction with fitness and mental health and all that stuff.
Totally. Yeah, it's knowing someone that commits suicide is tough, because it's like, damn, dude, that's I was in high school the first time I knew someone that did that, and I was I worked with him actually, and I was at a deli, and I was like, wow, that's such quiet despair. That's why I've always tried to make it clear with my own. I think it's important to make it clear with my own mental travails when I talk openly about things, is that I feel lucky that I've never truly felt suicidal. That always seemed, I think everyone thinks about how they might kill themselves or whatever. I think that that's like an intrusive thought kind of thing, but I've never been to that point, and I feel really grateful about that, because that level of despair is unfathomable in some sense, and I don't want anyone to feel like they need to, it's not that they need to talk to us or listen to us, but just I wish that people were just more open to therapy.
Yes.
And I really closed my mind and opened my mind to therapy at different parts of my life, but have generally looked at it as somewhat valuable. Back in the day when I was at IGN, like my early days at IGN, for several years, I dated a girl who was getting her PhD in forensic psychology, and she was literally a psychologist. And we'd have these conversations. She was actually a prison psychologist, which was so interesting. And we'd have these conversations about the efficacy of therapy and like the how you know and how you don't know, and how it seems more like a humanity than a science or whatever. And I always look back at those conversations as being really interesting, but also kind of trivializing who cares what you call it. It's really just important to talk to someone whose job is to just listen to you and give you feedback, and sometimes get different feedback from different kinds of people too. Like I was recently seeing a talk therapist, like a psychologist that I wasn't crazy about. He was nice, but we were talking about nonsense. Like I just didn't feel it. But then I was seeing I was seeing a psychiatrist that I wasn't feeling, and ended up seeing a nurse practitioner instead. And he and I are like two peas in a pod, and it's great. So you got to find your people, and find like the comfort with it. But I feel bad for myself at those times when I shut it out of my life, because I realize in hindsight, whether it was when my parents got divorced when I was in elementary school or in high school when I had a really bad relationship with my dad, and all the rest, that I could have probably been more open-minded to it in times when I needed it to. So that's another important reason to talk about that. And the mental health thing, I feel like, is so in vogue. That's what I was saying at the top, is that it seems like bodily health is so much less in vogue than mental health. And I feel like, honest to God, mental health is probably more important, but they're both there. It's yin and yang, really. And I don't understand. I like the idea of like being comfortable with yourself. We shouldn't be judging you, and you shouldn't feel like you are less than if you are a heavy person or an unathletic person or disabled person or any of those kinds of things that keep you from exercising and all of that. It's just, do you think that's a response to like what Micah brought up recently, the cocaine chic 90s stuff? Like, like the glamorization, frankly, of anorexia and bulimia. And it almost seems like a rubber band effect to that, where it's like, no, we're going to go in the exact opposite direction. Now we have obese Victoria's Secret models and stuff. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I that's fine, but I think that that's probably sending the wrong message too. I don't know. What do you think about that before we move on?
I think it's you got the body shaming aspect of it, where a lot of people, I think what's presented is sometimes, for example, like video games, like the protagonist in a video game, right? Generally, you do when you create a player, the physique is that the cut physique, this feeling, this perception of what the body's supposed to look like, and I get it, but I do think that like the weight aspect in our community is not talked about enough. I just got to be honest. I just feel like I go to these conventions, bro. I go, I see my gaming brothers and sisters, and we are on the heavy side. I look at the merch ordered from, obviously, Last Stand, right? I look at ILP merch. It's 3X, 5X. That's our demo. Like generally when we put up a lot of, we'll see that the smaller sizes are not really moving, you know what I'm saying, from a game. So that to me is a red flag. I just think that there's not enough emphasis on anything physical health wise, to as far as weight loss for our community. It's a big deal. And again, it's a lot of the habits that we have. But as far as like, to your question in reference to like, I'm assuming like, what you were saying with Mike, I wanted to get back to your point with Mike, what she was saying with the
the cocaine chic, like 90s,
I think that internally gamers like it ain't never gonna be me, kind of thing, and they just kind of, what's the word, when you resign yourself to say that's never going to be me, and this is what it is, and there's an embarrassment to it, and I think it's like we suffer in silence with it, and we don't do anything about it. We don't talk about it, kind of thing. And I think it's not good. I think we have to. I think we need to be more verbal about it, because again, my argument to anyone, that's in that situation, and I never body shame. I never look. The fact that you got up, you did something, even if it's the smallest thing, I'm like, bro, that is important, right? So for me, the argument that tends to win people over is I say, look, the way you're moving right now, I don't know about you, but Starfield and Spider-Man 2 is coming out at the end of this year. I would like you to be around. I want to play this with you, right? if the way you're continuing, and a lot of these things start compiling with other issues, right? Weight leads into this. Then we have the diabetic stuff, or we have for me, myself, I even have like the arthritis stuff. Like, it's a lot of compounding things that add on to this stuff. And if you don't make any changes, you're not going to be around. So I'll have that tough conversation with people. And generally, that's kind of like the win over, right? And it's just like, all right, you know what? It is right. If I keep moving like this, it ain't going to be good for me. And I think that's more of what we do. And the last thing I will say is, like one of my biggest benefits is actually this smartwatch. And a lot of times it's like, hey, Cog, you have not moved for over. Let's do something. Like just get out, walk, do stuff like that. Or also from the standpoint of like, I have a local like UPS and stuff sent not too far, maybe like a mile away. I can get in the car and I can drive and I can do it. But a lot of times I'm like, look, you've been sitting, walk, go, you know what I'm saying? And again, earning the right, doing these things to say, okay, now I've done everything I'm supposed to do today, right? I've met some physical requirements. I've done some things for myself. And now I've earned the right to sit down in front of a screen and do this for a few hours. And once I got myself mentally into that pocket, I've done so much better, and actually look forward to Carter. And now my blood pressure is actually really good. Like now, when they do all my blood work, they're coming back and like, oh, what have you been doing? Right? Because I've been actually doing these things. And that's, to me, the thing that we have to, make like a victory lap for our gaming brothers and sisters. Like, also go get your checkups. A lot of people, that's the last thing I'll say, they're so afraid to deal with the reality that they've been avoiding because they know that blood work or those tests are going to reveal and tell you the truth about how you've been living, right? That's the reality. A lot of people, they don't want to, they don't go, they don't want to do it. And the more you don't go, the worse it gets. And that's the key here. Like, go, the last thing I'll say, I'll always put up, hey, I'm at the eye doctor today. Hey, I'm doing my physical therapy today. Hey, like all this stuff, I put it up because people I know are afraid. Even something as simple as the dentist.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my fears. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. But I'm like, yo, I gotta go. I gotta pay my penance, man. I know I've been going for a while.
Yeah, you gotta go. Like it for me. Like, I have a mentality where I'd feel bad. I go to the dentist every 6 months for like forever because it's just, I don't know. I need that peace of mind. And then once in a while, like last time I went there, they're like, you have to get a filling replaced or whatever. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And then, so, you have to do that and go back there. But you need to know, because then that's the whole thing, is kind of like stemming the tide of things that can go wrong by maintaining yourself. It's similar to what you're saying about blood tests, where I went and got a blood test last year, kind of, again, putting my shoulder into it when I knew I needed to do it, because people in my family have been popping up as diabetic, and I'm like, I would fucking lose my mind if I became diabetic, straight up. So, because I don't know what I would do, because I'm such a carb whore. It's like, I would really be hurting. And, I went and they were like, you're not even close to being pre-diabetic, so you can get out of here, but at least I knew, and then you can kind of move on. Like, I want to know. It's the same thing with all the cancer screening stuff that's happening. Like, the cancer screening technologies are amazing these days. They're still expensive if you're not older, but we're really in the pocket now where they can see your colon cancer coming. They can see your prostate cancer coming. They can see all these different things. And for me, I feel like, damn, dude, I kind of want to be here for a while. I don't want to live forever. I don't want to live in the cloud, where we're all going to live one day. But I want to have some semblance of control over that, so I'm never surprised. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact, and I know you've been experiencing your stomach issues, is because I've had a lifelong stomach and colon issues that really have fucked my life up at different times. And so I've gotten more endoscopies and colonoscopies than an old person has ever gotten, right? And I've had polyps cut out, and I have ulcers and all these different things. And that really scared the shit out of me, to the point where it's serious. Like, it's an internal situation. And so I've always tried to monitor that. And then I've tried to let that kind of bleed into other parts of my life. But yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because, the other thing that we, as gamers and in fitness, we don't pay attention to the warnings. Actually, we know what the warnings are. We know something's off. But I know for myself, my biggest fear is the emergency room. I hate it for whatever reason. One, you're going to be there all night. Two, It's going to cost a lot of money, right? Let's be honest. Right? If you're not insured, I get it. But a lot of times the warning signs go off. And me and you had this conversation offline, right? With my situation when before I knew I had diverticulitis. And it was one of those things where I was trying to power through. I knew I was having a fever, all these issues. I'm like, okay, maybe it's COVID. Maybe, I'm just, flu. I'm popping Dayquil, NyQuil. That's not working. Then I'm having the most severe stomach pain I've ever had in my life where it's waking me up out of my sleep, right? I'm taking Tums, I'm taking Pepto. That ain't working. Now, this is a period of 2 weeks. As gamers, we do fools just like we try to power through, right? And then it's to the point where it's like, these are not working. Something else is going on. You need to find out. And I had to discipline myself. I even researched, okay, well, what's the fastest time? What's the best time to go to the ER when you actually could get? And they were like 5 a.m. switch between the night shift and the day shift. The room capacity smaller, and then all the specialists will be there for any high intense blood work stuff that you need.
Wow, look at you doing that.
Yeah, I'm broke. I was
going
like
a bullet wound, and you're like on Google. That's interesting. Yeah.
So I'm doing all this research. I finally go. And yeah, they do all the tests, all that stuff come back negative, but then they do a CAT scan and they do with a dye. And they're like, yeah, it came back diverticulitis. You're going to have to make some changes. You're going to have to eventually get into a high fiber diet. First clear, just to kind of get your systems out. You're going to take all these antibiotics to get this bad bacteria, that's really killing your stomach. And then you're going to have to use probiotics. But all of it stems from getting the answer. Now I have clarity. What's wrong with me? Okay, now I got the baseline. This is what I got to do. But if I would have let it go, who knows what this can go into? And that's, again, getting the information. We have to stop being scared. And as men find out and women find out what's going on. So I'm glad you mentioned, because me and you bonded over stomach issues when I told you offline, what was going on with me. And so many people hit me up, just like you said about when you were talking about mental health and going to get therapy. And, so many, hey, Cog, I have diverticulitis. This is what you got to do. And, you may want to move away from meat for a little while your body goes through this transformation. He said, you'll be able to do it maybe later, but your body's going to tell you, hey, that wasn't a good choice. And, this is what you kind of got to do. So it's like relearning myself during this period. And it's all informative. And I think sharing it does help because so many people are suffering in silence. And that's what you realize, or are going through sometimes the same thing, but they just don't disclose.
Yeah, it's funny. The stomach issue thing is interesting because it is a bonding thing between people that have it because it's unique. It's not that a lot of people have stomach issues of various kinds, but what you're talking about if it feels like you're being stabbed in the stomach or like you're in. I've been in the fetal position naked, like on my bathroom floor. Like, first of all, when I have my stomach issues, I get so hot that I start profusely sweating and immediately take all my clothes off. And then before you know it, like it's a dark, fucked up thing. Micah has come up. I've had it a few times when I've been with Micah, and she's come into the bathroom. Like I crawl into the shower basically when I'm done, and it's just like a pool of sweat. Right? I've had it so bad where I throw up from the pain while I'm on the toilet bowl. Like in a garbage can. That's a really unique thing, and you don't want that kind of stuff to happen. And then you're like, I don't know, or like I'll ride it through. You gotta. Hopefully, someone. I hope no one has these various ailments, but hopefully someone hears something and says like, yeah, I need to check into that. Cause I know it's the endoscopy and the colonoscopy. They're tough things.
Yes.
They require you to blow your asshole out first of all, which is like one of the craziest things you've ever had to do before. Like it's so crazy what you have to do to prepare for them. Cause you have to have nothing. Yeah. You have to prep. Yeah. They literally give you laxative after laxative after laxative after laxative after laxative until you are pooping water straight up.
Yes.
And, it's a preparatory thing, but you'll feel, and the drugs are good that they give you when you go, and you'll feel really good when it's happening, and you'll know, which I think is the best part. But one thing I wanted to say too about, I don't want to make it seem like I'm picking on anyone because I'm not. I'm really not. But when I see heavy people, like really heavy people, it reminds me in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to look like that. I don't want to be like that for the health reasons and also for the social stigma reasons. Unfortunately, there's just a stigma, although probably shrinking because everyone's becoming so heavy, of like the way people look at you and think of you. And I don't want people to be like, look at that guy or whatever. I want them to think about something else. Maybe they hate me for some other reason. But I try to use that as motivation as well to just try to stay in some sort of pocket where, I don't want to be a statistic.
I feel you.
And it's no insult to anyone because it's like people are being told like healthy at any size or whatever. And it's like, dude, you know what the craziest thing to me was that really turned me around on this, Cog, and like made it be like, I can't, is if you go look at x-rays of obese people. Have you ever seen one before? It's really wild because your skeleton's not growing. So you see a person who's 400 pounds being, you know, under an x-ray, and it's like, holy shit, like what your body is struggling, man. Like all your internal organs are the same, your skeletal structure is the same, but you are just all this weight that doesn't need to be there. And I think that the unfortunate thing that I hope we can nip in the bud with a proactive conversation as well is that when you get that heavy, it becomes really hard to lose it without real, you know, with someone really stepping in and getting surgery and all that kind of stuff. That's why you got to just nip it in the bud. If you feel like you're on that arc and you want to get off of it, you have to do something about it before it's too late, both for your health in terms of time, but because you're going to work so much harder to get that weight off than you do by just stopping. Like that to me, when I watch like my 600 pound life or something like that on TLC once in a while on YouTube, it's like these people struggle, but to me, I'm like, just stop eating so much and you would probably lose half of this weight without even having to do anything. Your body, the doctor says like your body needs like 7,000 calories a day to even sustain what you're doing to your body. So it just frustrates me so much because people are being sold a false good bill of sale being like, you can be healthy and fine at that. And I'm like, no, you can't. No, you can't. And you don't need a PhD or an MD to know that. You don't need to have a college degree or a high school education to know that. They can't possibly be. And that frustrates the shit out of me. It's just as bad as the cocaine chic stuff and the bulimia and the glorification of anorexia and all that really happened in the 80s and 90s. It's, I don't know, man. That bothers me the most. Like, I hope people use the social stigma as earned or unearned as a motivating factor, you know, to not be that statistic.
Well, what it is your body, once you get to that state, your body is now conditioned, okay, this is what we're doing. And the minute you try to do anything contrary from an exercise or health standpoint, it's going to resist. So it's hard, it's difficult. And the minute you at that size feel that, you immediately want to stop. You really want to give up. And the reason why that also hits hard with me, again, I lost another person, you know, I used to work with. It was a kid I used to work with. And, you know, he was really big. And what ends up happening is he's like, you know, Cog, I'm going to get the surgery. And I was pushing against him. I'm like, look, I get it. You know, the lipo, whatever it is to, you know, this surgery is supposed to be internally to help you, you know, lose weight. And I'm just like, look, bro, I prefer you don't, because even if you have that short-term gain, you know, loss really quickly, you know, I'm just concerned about long-term and you putting it back on. Why not at least attempt to lose the weight the correct way, you know? And we fought about it. And, you know, he joked. He was like, nah, man, I ain't, you know, whatever. And this is available to me. And I remember getting the call, you know, and they were just like, yeah, he had complications on the operating table. Right. So the shortcuts, all these different things that's putting, you know, the glorification of being that big, it's just not healthy. It's just not. Like you said, you don't need a degree to understand the body's not designed to be that way. So I know it's the hardest thing to do, and it's easy for me to tell you. I get it. And your body is going to resist, and it's going to be tough. I don't sugarcoat. This is going to be the hardest thing you ever going to do. But every little incremental step is better than you taking that shortcut, and now you lost your life because of this, right? And, you know, and what it is, people, they sink. They get into these deep depressions and it just compounds itself. And I get it. That's why, like you said, talking to someone, therapy, having someone as an outlet to push you and stuff like that. And that's not, you know, a lot of it's judgment. You know, a lot of people just, you know, they don't want people to talk about this very sensitive thing. And I get it. And I just try to be understanding as possible. But the key, like I said earlier, to me is like, bro, you want to be around when Starfield come out? You want to be around? Like, I think you do. I think you want to play this game at that rate, and you ain't. So we just got to have that real talk. And a lot of times, you know, guys are going to make the change. But I'm glad you mentioned, you know, as far as, you know, our really overweight brothers and sisters, because that is real. That is, and there's no shortcut around you. You got to get to it. You have to.
And now.
Yeah, now.
Yeah.
Like you got to get to it.
And I agree. And I say it with a lot of sympathy from the sense of, because we're talking about the societal impact and me not wanting to become a statistic, but I say it with a lot of sympathy, knowing that, like I said, I had to sit myself down and be like, you can't eat all day. Like, you have to make some sort of major concession, because I basically had it all written out and being like, here's what you do, right? And here are the things you can cut. And I was like, you can stop eating so many carbs, so much bread, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So then the option was like, then you have to eat less, like a lot less. And so that's when I came into fasting years ago, and it's to the point where we're 2:30 Eastern when we're recording this right now. It's like I haven't eaten in 16 or 17 hours at this point, and I feel fine. That's kind of what I've had to do to my body to say, like, okay, go to your feast mode and your concession. And it's not working, by the way. If I keep this up, I'm going to become heavier and heavier. Like, right. I have a little gut already. I mean, I'm getting a custom suit for my wedding, and I just got measured for like an hour the other day. I've never gotten like properly measured or whatever. And so it's seeing, like, wrapping them around my gut and how it's different there, and how awkwardly shaped I actually am. I'm like, because I'm skinny. Like Mike always says, it's funny. Like, you can see like my abs, like my first ab or my first two abs, and then it's like a fat, like a little belly, and you can see my chest, and my arms are becoming bigger, and I have huge legs, like huge muscular legs. So like it's all off proportion. And these guys were laughing as they were measuring me, because my legs are huge. Like, if you just looked at my legs, you'd think that I was very athletic.
I'm jealous. That to me is like probably your hockey. And then for me, I was always fast twitch, but I never had big calves, big legs like that. I was always the quick kid, but I was always jealous of you guys, like the hockey players or the soccer players, because you guys always had the big legs, and aesthetically, to me, it completes the physique. I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that kind of stuff. So yeah, I completely get it. I completely understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's I say it with sympathy to our heavier brothers and sisters, because it's like I am one in mind. Like, I am heavier than it seems in brain. Like, and I overeat still. I overeat like crazy during that period. Really. I mean, when you think about it, Micah will make things, and I basically eat 2 full servings of everything she makes, Wow. So if she makes burgers and fries or something, I'll be like 2 burgers, 2 things of fries. If she makes pork chops, 2 pork chops, 2 things of rice, 2 things of vegetables, like. And then I'll usually have a dessert after that. Like,
wow, you eat big.
Yeah, and I'll have like a donut or something, or like a pretzel, like a soft pretzel, or sometimes like peanut butter and sandwiches, and then I'll eat nuts and stuff like that. But the one thing, so here's the thing I try to keep it to like 2,500 calories or so, which I think is totally within my budget to at least maintain things, because I burn a lot. Doing my cardio, like it could be like 400 or 500, 600 calories, just that, without my weightlifting. Right. So I feel comfortable being in that, but sometimes it gets even more out of control. And then sometimes I go through days where I will still eat a lot. But the thing is that Micah bakes bread a lot, or was baking bread a lot. And then I would start making everything into sandwiches. So so she would make like chicken cutlets, and I'd be like, all right, chicken cutlet sandwiches. So that's like American cheese, mayo, all that stuff. And so she just stopped making so much bread, and that naturally had me just eating more meat, which I think is obviously, which is good. We're preferable anyway. And so I say that with a lot of, because I do get out of control during even that just small period. So if I opened up the parameters, it would be out of control all day, and then I would be very heavy very quickly. So I totally get it. And I really want people out there to just think about what concessions they can easily make. Like, you have to just, in my opinion, Cog, and I'm not a dietitian, but in my opinion, it really just starts with like a series of concessions, and you have to just concede more and more. Yes. But you have to start with some concession.
Something. Yes.
Right. And see if you can just hang with that concession. Like my midnight quesadillas back in the day. Like, I knew I was like, okay, well, those definitely have to go. Like, I would never even think about doing that today. That would be insanity. I'd feel so bad. So let's talk a little bit about weightlifting.
Yes.
I've discovered this more recently. And I've really enjoyed it, although I've not done anything so sophisticated. I'm lucky enough, and you and I are different too, in the sense that I want to work out at home, but I'm lucky enough where we have an extra, like on our first floor, there's an office, like a home office type space, and we've made it into our gym. And so we have like an elliptical, like a stationary bike, a bench, and some other stuff in there. And I bought this stuff in the fall of 2021, like I guess kind of when the COVID was kind of going away, and when you could start buying things again, because everything was like, flying off the shelves because people were working out at home. And that's why I couldn't find Ring Fit Adventure, which was really annoying to me at that time, too.
That was very hard to find.
Yeah.
You're actually correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Especially during the pandemic.
And so I bought these weights. They were just the Amazon weights. I'm a little frustrated with them now because they have a weird thread where it's like a proprietary Amazon thread. So you I guess there's like a universal series of bars you can buy that work with all sorts of different things, but I'm locked into this thing, which I'll just throw them away at some point and get new ones. But they started out as, I think 15 pounds. And then I put on so they're each 22 or 23 pounds now or something. And I never looked up anything or really know what I'm doing, but they came with like a piece of paper with a bunch of different exercises. Like schematics. And so I started just doing them. And I became a believer for multiple reasons. Number one is, when I started weightlifting, my back got stretched out like crazy. Like, I don't know if that's something a lot of people experience, but I'm like a little fucking shrimp in my chair all day, right? Like all curled up. And I just felt like just lifting, doing this with like something heavy, just popping my back, like just extending it, and so it felt good. And then I quickly started seeing results, which I had never really seen in working out before, because cardio is much more, I'm not staring at my legs all the time. My legs have always been muscular, frankly, from hockey. So like, I'm not really worried about those. They started getting fat and then they turned back, they started to go back into muscle when I started working out again. But I never really, I was just trying to maintain my weight, like slim up. I used to weigh myself, by the way, every day when I lived in California, and I stopped. I actually don't even have a scale in the house. I refuse to even weigh myself anymore.
Really?
Yeah. I just don't want to know. Like, I don't want to live like that. I want to just do the work, and I don't want to like micromanage it.
No curiosity at all?
Oh, I'm mega curious. I just don't want to obsess over it. I found I would get frustrated and upset. Like, why is my weight fluctuating? I already did this. And like, why am I heavier now? And all this. It would really
too obsessive.
It would drive me insane.
Okay.
It would drive me totally insane.
Okay.
And I just was like, I can't have that. But I started just doing some of the things that were on that schematic sheet. And then I started seeing results, and I can see results. Which is crazy because my arms were basically just straight cartoon girl arms, right? Like they really just were. I never had an ounce of upper body strength. I did not care. It was not what was important to me in my sport. And then by the time I got older, flexibility and weird shit like that was what was important. Like me being small was actually a virtue in that position. And although that's changing too in hockey, but not when I played. So by the time I got older, it's hard to kind of like the football team at my high school used to be in the weight room, and I used to hang out with them, but I never even like touch a weight. I would just like, sit against the wall and we would talk shit or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, why didn't I just do anything? I don't know what. So like I went all of this time not knowing what to do. And then I really realized like, man, your upper body strength is pathetic. Like it really is pathetic. And I came to realize this when I was getting my pool built, and the people left a bunch of those bags of like concrete. And those are 95 pounds each, I think. And they left them like in the middle of my garage, and I just wanted to move them to the corner. So I like picked each one up, and I was like struggling. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is so heavy. I could do it, but then I started lifting weights, and then they needed to be moved again. And so I went back like a year later, and I was like, no problem. It was actually kind of interesting. I was like, wow, this is really, so I started seeing results there too. And I must finally say that I like the aesthetic of having muscles. Not that I really have very big muscles. I don't. But as I'm fitting into my shirts differently and like seeing my arms,
it's a feel, bro.
Yeah, just seeing, again, no muscle here. I'm not making a muscle, but like just the width of my arm is much different than it used to be, and I like that. And I also dig, and this is a separate thing I have to jump in. Is that I kind of like that it's a conservative aesthetic. It like being a gym rat is like kind of conservative aesthetic, and that's cool. But just being fit and being muscular seems to be something, as like one side in quotes embraces body positivity, which I think is good, and like making people feel good and all of that, but also embracing, like we said, the dark side of body positivity, like health at any size and all that. The other side is kind of embracing a more aggressive, like gym rat aesthetic. And I kind of just fall one step towards that, right? Where I'm never going to be like a gym rat. I'm probably not, but I do think I need to kick up the weight resistance at this point.
Yeah.
There are just times, and you probably appreciate this. I do my weightlifting first. They say to do your cardio second. I don't know if that's good advice or not, but they just say you need all of your strength for your weightlifting. I don't really need, my cardio for me is more like I'm bored. Like I don't want to do it not because it's hard on my body. I could care less about that. It's because I'm just fucking bored,
Right.
And so that's when I listen to music and get crazy. And you were saying, by the way, you sing, you rap and all that kind of stuff. I do that too, and I try to do it to get out of breath. Like I'll scream
you
the
do
lyrics and
it.
stuff. So like, yeah. So like you're making your body work even harder and your lungs work harder. And
Oh, you're challenging yourself because you're doing it during the
yeah,
car. That's
I'm poor
hardcore.
Micah. I mean, she hears all of this, but
She hearing you. I love this.
but I try to do my sets, and sometimes I'm like really into it, and I can do 2 full sets of everything, and then there are other times where I'm like really struggling with it, where I'm like, so that's why I don't want to kick it up. It's not like I'm not like shaking, but it's like it takes more to lift. But I just do 4 different exercises, 6 sets or 4 sets of 4 exercises with 6, I guess, reps in each
with
of them.
6 to 8 reps.
Yeah, right.
I got what you got.
So like the curls with each arm and like lifting up and then laying down and lifting up and doing like the side ones or whatever.
Oh, yeah, like back. Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of the exercises I'm actually doing are really working out my wrist area, which is interesting. It looks like I masturbate every day.
Yeah, your forearm was crazy.
I'm a lefty, so it can't be possibly that. But so talk to me a little bit about how you discovered weightlifting, because that is a more communal experience, but I've only experienced it in my home gym and literally know nothing else about it at all. So
yeah, it was, again, the confidence finally starts to get up. I go consistently, and I remember I always had, like, I was similar. Like I never had good arms. I was always super skinny. Arms were very tough for me. I remember people saying, hey, you have great shoulders, right? Your shoulders are wide. If you ever worked out, you would have like an amazing shoulders. So I said, all right, I'm going to start with that. So I would do like shoulder routine. I would sit and I would do, first, everything with me was the not free weights. I would do the machines first, because I guess my focus was like, let me work on my form first to make sure what I'm doing. So I would go really light, whether it be shoulder presses, laterals, things of that nature. And they would have machines that would kind of assist you in the gym. So I would do that, and I started to get a little improvement. And what you said is so key, because the minute first of all, when you first start, your body is like, what are we doing? This is not what we are accustomed to. So the next day, what is it? We call it the DOMS, the delayed onset, muscle soreness. It's intense, right? You're like, oh my God, like your everything's just dead. And it actually detracts from you going back, because you need so much time, a little bit more time to recover, because your body's not used to this effort that you're giving it. It's like, what are we doing? So I had to say, okay, don't freak out, right? That when you're doing that you're having all this muscle soreness. It's your body's not used to it. So the trick would be, okay, the next day, do another body part. So you did shoulders, right? Now that's sore. You can't do that for the next 2 or 3 days, whatever. Now you do legs, or you do back, and I would just alternate the body parts. And I started, first it was just like 3 times a week. So I give myself a day between, to at least body rest when I first started going. Then my recovery started to get better. And what I noticed was, as I got more consistent, I would look at little, YouTube videos of people have instructional plans, things of that nature. And I would just kind of formulate my own little thing. Like, hey, I want to try that. Hey, but I would put off arms and definitely legs for a while. I definitely, because I was always very skinny legs. I hated the way they looked. I just hated physically that part about myself. I'll be honest. It was really a struggle. And then arms just felt so difficult. Like you said, just picking up stuff around the house, you realize how weak you are, right? But there's a lot of work to arm day. It is work. Like it's a mental toughness to really go through, because instinctually, when things get too heavy, you just want to drop it and quit. Like that's just how my mental state was. So basically, once I started doing the other things like shoulder and back that I was good at, and those started to improve, and I started to see like your shirt fits a little different now. Like, okay. And it's like you said, that aesthetic. And there's something to be said about feeling good, looking good, and you're seeing your body change right before your eyes, and you're like, yo, I'm doing something. That inspired me to go back, right? And then the last part is, it is, when we talked about the music part, and we talked about the workout is like my sanctuary, my dojo, so to speak. Because whatever's going on in real life, I could be stressed out of my mind. But there is something to be said of taking it out on the weight, so to speak. And then you're just completely mentally drained, physically drained. You don't have time to be depressed anymore. You just want to go home, want to eat, you want to rest.
Totally.
Kind of thing. So that helped me. But then as I got on, I got better. I started to then finally say, okay, you have to address these arms and these legs. You got to do something. You can't avoid it just because you don't like the type of work. And then I started to incorporate exercises that were a little easier to kind of build up my strength. And then, went from curls to seated curls. And then what probably took me to the next level when my arms really started to develop, which again was weakness, was what we considered skull crushers, where I would grab the bar, go to my head, and then like kind of do a reverse motion. And those really, when I started to see my arms develop, then I got my confidence. Okay, and now I'm in a leg day resurgence right now.
Nice.
Too. So,
a renaissance. Yeah,
I'm in a renaissance. I'm like, come on, man. Someone pulled up. He's like, bro, Cog skipping leg day. What's up? And I'm like, no. But what it was that my calves were genetically just didn't respond. But I actually found some new stuff now to incorporate on the or decentric motion, which is some mistakes I was making, which is when you do like, say, for example, like calf raises, I would get on my tippy toes. I do this, and then I'd come here. What you have to do is, if this is my toes, you have to go down all the way, get that negative. And that negative then bringing back up is what was actually building and I'm like, oh, I'm starting to see. So it might not be over for me just yet, calves. So that's pretty much it. You learn little tricks, you do research. And the main thing is, I'm a solo guy, I go to the gym generally solo. But the main thing too is, it's okay to ask people like, hey man, you have great calves, you have great this. What do you do for that? Like how, and just it's basically pooling all the information. And then also you got to work to your body. Sometimes you got injuries. Sometimes there's things I can't do. I can't do full squats. I have like a lower spine issue. Like I could get seriously hurt. So I have to do other things to compensate. So work around your body, take tips from people, but also know your body and know what you can't do so that you do serious injuries. That's my greatest strength. I'm very good at avoiding injury. I've never had a major injury. I've gone to the gym by myself for a long time.
Let's talk a little bit about earning things, earning gaming or like leisure time or whatever. Like what, I'm curious how much you work out every day or like what your cycle is and what your whole, like how you kind of stratify your life, because I actually don't really like playing games during the day. Sometimes I do, but I'm not really I like playing games after dinner, and then like I really just settle into my zone and just play until whatever time at night. So it's somewhat easy for me to earn that time, but and I have to work and do all sorts of other things, but I basically structure my day so that I work out right before I eat dinner. So if I'm doing like a full workout, I'll start at 5:30 and I'll lift weights for about a half an hour, and then I'll do an hour of cardio, and then we'll eat at 7:30. Oftentimes I start at 6, do a half an hour of weightlifting and a half an hour of cardio. Sometimes I do 15 minutes of weightlifting and 30 minutes of cardio, but I always do 30 minutes of cardio every day. It is very, very rare for me. Probably once every 40 days do I not exercise at all.
Wow.
And that to me is a discipline thing. Like I think it's important in some ways to just remain totally disciplined. Like you are going to do this. There might be something, there's literally always something I want to be doing other than that. I don't really like mega look forward to it. I know some people really do. I just feel like you got to do this. You have to, it's about concessions. Like you have to concede that you need to spend time in here and do this. And otherwise, and by the way, the few days over the last few years where I felt weak and it was like, I don't want to do it. And I feel like an asshole. And I think it's something you said earlier too, especially is that if anyone sees a therapist out there, that one of the first things they'll ask you is if you're exercising, because to your point, exercise really is one of the great medicines towards an anxious feeling, depression, all those kinds of things. Not even the distractive elements of exercising, but in just getting that energy out of you, like hitting a punch. I really want to get a punching bag because I love punching, like doing like the sparring and all of that. I think it's fun. And I can imagine that's like my dad used to. It's weird, but my dad had tires in the basement, and he would have like these axe handles, and he'd beat the shit out of them when he got upset. Like instead of like yelling and screaming at people or whatever, he would just, and you'd hear him down there like screaming as he's like beating these things, and he'd just come up and just be, you have to like somehow get it out of you. Sometimes it was over me, unfortunately. So I think I'm curious like how you structure that time and how, if you exercise every day and all of that. And then I want to talk about like your diet and your supplements and all of that as well. Yeah. So
no, absolutely. Yeah. Good point about I answered the question, but I just want to say good point about, going in there and like what you say with your dad or just in general, is like getting stuff out because with our stomach issues, one of the reasons why I also have to continue is because they said, look, exercise is one of the number one things because it creates endorphins to help with our stomach issues. So vigorous exercise is huge. But to your point, as far as schedule, my schedule is the worst. I ain't even gonna sugarcoat it. I've got so much going on. I wear too many hats, full-time job, LLC business of Iron Lords podcast, LSM, we out here, we defining Duke and stuff like that. Then I have Lords of Gaming, right, which is people are responsible. I have opportunities I have to look out for the site. I have to meet with my senior editing team all the time. People always need my time and feedback, right? So that's the first thing. Then there comes down to, hey, you're stressed. You worked a long day. You want to just chill. You just want to just rest. You just want to, pop on a TV. You don't necessarily want to do anything, because you work so hard. So part of me feels like, you deserve to just chill, not do anything. But to your point, which is like, look, you've got to do something about your health. You have to. This is our routine. This is what we do. And if you don't do this, you're going to deteriorate. So what happens is it's the juggling act of, okay, you're not going to be able to do everything every day. What are you willing to give up? And health and the gym always supersedes. I may slip a day. Let's say, for example, ideally my target is 4 times a week, right? I try to get in there 4 times a week, preferably during the week and not the weekend, right? And if one of those days, life, whether it be work, business, personal, family, takes over, right? It is like, okay, you cannot get there. This is critical. Your attention is needed. You have to resolve something or you have to do something. I'll document it, but you're going to pay it back and you're going to earn it tomorrow. You're going to get back in there. You're not going to slide and go through this period of 3-4 days. And now all you're doing is working and playing games all day and you're not, taking care of your physical. And then there's times where gaming looks at me like, bro, you got to finish these games and you have to gym all day.
Yeah,
but
sure.
You know what I'm saying? It's a juggling act, right? You're never, as long as I recognize what's going on and I plan, okay, this is what happened today. What are you going to do tomorrow or what are you going to do the next day to compensate and take care of the other aspects of the pie that's pulled at you? That's what I do. As far as the length of time, I'm pretty intense. I'm a very disciplined person. Listen, I could literally be in the gym for 2 hours if I get out of control. I could do a full hour of weight training and then do 30 minutes of cardio, that kind of thing. And sometimes I've realized that less is more. Sometimes I have my best workouts when I'm short of time. When it's like, I only got about sometimes like my gym sometimes will close at 11 p.m. I'm a member of 2 gyms. That's how out of control because based on the scheduling and how that day goes. And one is way better cardio. This New York Sports Club that's not too far from me is way better cardio equipment. So when I want to go, I'll make sure I want to go to that gym. But there's times where the day has consumed me. I'm looking at my watch. It's about 9:30. If I jump in the car, go to the gym, it'll be 10:30. I'm only going to get 30 minutes. So party goes like, hey, is it even worth it? But party says, no, go. Even if you get 20 minutes, get in there. You did it. And sometimes you'll see my late tweet at that time because I force myself. And then when I come back, eat, play your games, do what you got to do. Just go. So that's the juggling act. And it's not easy. It's not, I'll make no excuses. Sometimes my sleeping habits can need to improve. That's probably my biggest weakness is my sleeping habits. They're terrible. And I really have to do
I want to
better.
talk about that too. We'll get to that because I wrote that down as well. I was curious about that.
It's all, and that's the struggle right now. And to be honest, turning the phone off sometimes, not engaging, right? And learning, hey, you'll get to it when you get to, but you need your rest, bro, because a part of this whole thing is rest. And so it's a juggling act. It's always something. But to your immediate question, 3 to 4 times a week, generally an hour to an hour, 20 minutes is what the goal is for a week of my life as far as exercise and weight training.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think mine is so every day simply because it's in my house, which is the only way I would do it. I don't want to go anywhere and do this kind of stuff. And it's also just way, way, way too hot down here to be outside to exercise. Although a few months ago, we had I'm sure up in Jersey it was the same, but we had a really mild spring, like the summer, and summer started late. So we live in just suburbia. I'm sure you'll see it at some point. And so you could just miles and miles of sidewalk and just nothing but houses, right? And so we started walking at night after dinner, and which is another easy thing that people can do. And we're walking is, I like walking, especially, it's how we catch up. Micah and I like catch up. Like,
Nice.
we now we go in the pool and we catch up, because like I need to be. I don't like, we sit sometimes and talk, but I'm like, let's go do something and talk.
Yes.
And so we started having those walks, which is really good, and I really enjoyed that too. And so I highly encourage people on that regard as well. But what about eating? Like, we never really got into your diet, and I know your diet's changing now, but also I'm curious what your supplements are, if you take any, because I only I was exercising for a while and I was seeing results, and then Micah had recommended to me, like, you should take protein and do all this, and I was reminded of my old freshman college roommate James West, who was a football player on Northeastern's team, and he made our entire room reek of this protein powder that smelled like maple syrup, and I was like always so mad at him. I'm like, can you get this fucking shit out of here? Like, everything smelled like it, and but I always think of him. He was just so into it. And then I lived with another guy like years later that only ate like turkey sandwiches on wheat with no mayonnaise and like just like lettuce salads. And he was just a really weird dude. He was just mega. He was like the first meathead I ever really ran into.
Yeah,
and he wasn't a bad guy. I don't mean that, I guess, as an insult, but that's what he was. And but to me, it was never a natural thing to like take supplements. And then she was like, you should take protein powder. So I did, and I started seeing even better results. And so if I only lift one full set of everything, I don't take it. But if I do 2 full sets of lifting, like for half an hour, I always drink protein afterwards, and I have a little bit of peanut butter powder I put into it, and it's really good. Actually, it tastes pretty good, and it works. And you can even use those as meal replacements and stuff. But I'm curious, like, what your full gamut of dieting is.
Yeah, you nailed it. So for me, again, when I went through that period from, was it 150 to 170, the change was, okay, so I was basically in my bulk phase, which was, soon as you get up in the morning, whey protein, and then from there, I have my breakfast. I make sure I minimum have my 2 to 3 meals a day if I could. But whey protein, as soon as you get up, whey protein post-workout was the thing I would do. And I started to see improvement. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, creatine, right? So I would take those 3. I would also take fish oil, omega-3 fish oil, because with all the working out on your joints, you want to do stuff to help your joints as well. And also glycosamine. Glycosamine was huge for me. That's also very joint specific, because working out training it abuses your joints. That's just, you can't get around it. So you need to have supplements on that. For me, when I did my blood work, they were noticing, not that I was anemic, they were like, hey, you got to get your vitamin D up. You got to get a lot of other certain vitamins I was very deficient in. So vitamin D was also a big thing, as well as what was the other one? It was fish oil, glycosamine, omega-3, fish oil with krill, and then the last thing, as far as really bulking to take me to the next level, was casein protein. That's what took me. So what I did is I said, okay, because the way you think about this, when you go to sleep, you're essentially fasting for 8 hours, right? You're fat. Your body there's nothing going on. So casein is slow digestive protein. So what I would do is I take it at night before bed. So while I'm sleeping, you're getting that slow incremental, your body's breaking it down, right? And then you wake up, and then obviously I would take the whey, which is kind of fast digesting, in the morning. But what I would do is casein, for people who want to save money and don't want to go to a vitamin shop or GNC, because this stuff is expensive. Like, one thing you'll realize about all this stuff, expensive, Colin.
And it is. I don't know. It's so interesting, like, looking at all of them. Yeah.
It is mind-blowing how much money you have to spend to stay consistent with this kind of stuff. So the tricks I would do for people who can't get to it is I would actually get muscle milk. So muscle milk is half whey, half casein, right? So when I was really in bulk mode and I wanted to save money, muscle milk in the morning, muscle milk post-workout, muscle milk after the meal before bed, I shot up in weight. And then with that, with consistent weight training, and then creatine on top. Oh, bro, it was crazy. Now I had to slow down a little bit. And then obviously when they incorporate cardio, it was getting too big. I shot up to like 240.
Wow.
I was huge. You know what I mean? So, but then I was like, all right, the belly's not right, and my cardio and my blood pressure needs to be better. You don't have to go that hard. Slow down on the casein. The way it's fine.
Right.
You're good, bro. And then from there, it was more about, like you said, blood pressure and keeping that in line. So now I sit around 220, 230, which is 220 is probably as big as I should be. I shouldn't even be any more bigger than that. But it's just, what it is when you start the weight train, you get ego. I'm looking small. Like then it has a reverse effect. Like you want to be big all the time. You want to be the biggest guy. Like, and I had to be like, no, but you're not healthy though. So it's okay to be smaller, but you're healthy and have a more aesthetic look to you as opposed to the bodybuilder, the meathead, the beefy boy look. That's what they tease. They call me the beefy, the word beefy. That's the new joke everyone's saying.
Hey, you must have got like a whole new wardrobe to fit in, like as your body grew, you know?
Yeah. But the cool thing is when you have those really cool outfits that when you were smaller and being able to fit back into that is awesome. Like I love that. So yeah, it's a balance. You fluctuate. You know, I'm trying not to get obsessive with the scale because that's a good point that you said that you had about obsession with it. But what I usually do is once every 2 weeks, I'll check. Okay, let's see where we at. And I'm like, oh wow, I'm really down. Okay, I am losing, and I can tell you, bro. You put on the old pair of shorts and you hit that belt buckle. You're like, oh, okay, we are improving. We are doing something correct. So those are the little mental things you use to kind of track yourself, gauge yourself.
It was funny when I went to not this last time to get to the tailor, but when I just got a suit at like Men's Warehouse earlier in the year, and the guy was like, I thought it was hysterical because he was like, "What is your pant size?" And I'm like, "It's like I wear like 33 jeans," and he's like, "Really?" And he was like, he was right. I was like totally off, but it's because I wear my jeans. So I don't wear my jeans on my waist. I wear them like lower, like, you know, a man.
Are you sagging for calling it sagging?
Not like crazy, but like, you know, I never wore my pants on my waist, you know, like I remember going shopping with my mom. She's like, you have to pull them up to here. Like, I'm like, no one wears them like that. Like, what are you talking about? No, I don't. I definitely don't wear my pants where I'm supposed to. I'm probably too old, but I don't wear them like sagging too badly where you can't walk. But and I was reminded, it's like, yeah, I'm still fighting this losing battle of barely my clothes are the exact opposite, where it's like my shirts. It's like, man, I actually kind of conceded, and it's a combination of my gut and my arms and my chest growing, but it's like I can't wear medium shirts anymore. Like it just can't be getting away with this anymore. Just
with the tightness on the belly part is what
totally. No, it's like I look like but there are shirts I have where I'm like I look pregnant.
I look pregnant. Yo, facts.
Yeah.
So I got to get the size big. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I got to do. Yeah. I know what you mean.
What about your diet? You said like you eat breakfast and all, and you're 2 to 3 meals a day. Like, do you eat well? Because Micah cooks like good home cooked meals that are sometimes unhealthy, but we often have a vegetable and all of that. But I feel like it's better than eating out or eating fast food. I love fast food. I would eat fast food all the time. McDonald's, I really, really love. We have I've said this in the past, like if you get a good McDonald's, man, that's some of the best. And we have a McDonald's that gets it every time, like just nails it. I don't know what's going on there or like why they're so good, but everything.
All McDonald's that I created.
Right, exactly. We have one that's like run by people that I guess care about it or whatever. So I love that, but I don't necessarily eat very well. The one thing again about concessions is I was a big lemonade and orange juice person my entire life. And what I discovered about these things, and like Tropicana, like real orange juice, but what I discovered about these things and Newman's Own and all that lemonade, oh, it's so good. But it's worse than Pepsi or Coke.
Yes.
And like, so when I realized that, I was like, all right, I'll just drink one Coke or Pepsi a day. And I have it with my dinner. And then otherwise, I'm just a water person. I love water. Yep. I have no problem drinking water. So that's one concession I've tried to make, is to get whatever like the liquid calories as much as possible and just enjoy like a Pepsi with dinner. But it's hard. I love orange juice. I would probably drink a carton of orange juice every day. If
me and you talked about this, we shared the whole meal, having to have something with the meal, because it's hard for me to do water just with a meal. It feels so boring and plain.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So that's where the Pepsi comes in, where it's like, okay, this is going to be the thing I'm going to do today, and then just get that all done, and then just go back to water. And I love Smart Water, but actually when I fill this up like 10 times before I throw it out, probably because we have the fridge water. So trying not to be too wasteful. But where's your diet at? Are you like mindful? Because I was told by a dietitian once, they're like, it doesn't matter how hard you work out. Like 90% of it is diet. Like if you just conceded more of your diet, you would see better results. And I'm like, well, no, but what's your experience with this?
Yeah, that's the struggle. That is it right there. Because you made the good point about concession, about what you want to eat. And like we talked about the fast food. So here's the thing. Cog does not cook, which is a problem. Like when he's in a relationship, he's fine. You know, cook that. You make food great. I'll eat it. You know what I'm saying? But when you're by yourself, Cog is lazy. I'm the guy that would rather pay a cleaning person to come. I'm the guy that I will spend bro, my Uber Eats, like Addict makes fun of me. He's like, bro, every time I call you ordering something, like that's me. I'm the guy that has the crazy DoorDash bill, Uber Eats bill. I'm just bringing stuff in, and sometimes you make the bad choices. So what I had to do is I had to really go to like nutritionist sites, and like for example, I went to this is so Jersey, bro. It's literally called Eat Clean, Bro. Like it don't get no more Jersey than this, but you can tell they're meatheads who are conscious about it. So what I do is I'm actually working with them behind the scenes on something else, but hopefully something beneficial, to help gamers. But so basically, they've got them. It's like, clean, mean. Like they got these categories based on your goals, right? And a lot of it sometimes is, like low carb stuff. A lot of it is really like, sweet potatoes, meat, chicken, basic, brown rice, basic stuff to get you. And also, I'm terrible with breakfast. My biggest problem is breakfast. Like, I don't do a good job there. I'm the guy that will get 2 chicken McGriddles if you leave me to. Like, I will get all that. It's too amazing tasting to me. So now it's like, okay, let's do either you could do your egg whites or you could do your scrambled eggs, whatever. Get some turkey bacon, and then they have a little mild salsa. Because me and you both are ketchup guys, right?
Totally.
And I'm the guy that'll drown the whole thing. Like I'm that guy, right? So I'm trying to make substitutes so that things are not in excess. Not excess with the soda, not excess with the ketchup. You could have it, like you said with your meal, but just the key is me was excess, and also investing in my meal. So I'll have those pre-made meals, 2 or 3 a day. Now, granted, I'll treat myself. Sometimes you get into the taste buds, you get into a rudimentary thing where it's like you get bored, right? So it's like, okay, once in a while, I'll treat myself and have something outside of it. But that's my main baseline, having these type of meals, watching my calorie intake. And then the key is the late night snacking. What do I do? So, I'm I kind of like ice cream. So sometimes I found like a protein ice cream substitute. I found like a sorbet that once in a while I can have. Because you know what I think me and you also share is I have a sweet tooth. I'm a dessert guy. I feel like, man, I did all this. Now I want a whole cheesecake. like I'm bad. Like desserts are also my Achilles heel. So again, you got to make some concessions. Like you said, the key thing you said is, you can do it, but you can't have this all the time. And if you do have a variant of it, that's a little more healthier than just splurging on, birthday cake brownies and all this other stuff that I would do. So those are my internal battles, but that's what's helped me to bring the weight down, watch my calories, watch my intake, and I've been much better. It's expensive. It's not cheap. None of this stuff I've done. And all of this, if anyone's listening, I say, learn to cook. Because I could be saving so much more money. Like, there's no doubt.
So do you not like to cook, or do you not really know how?
I hate to cook and don't know how to cook. A lot of, like, the best cooking you gonna get out of me is some Franks.
Fair enough.
Like, first of all, I'm tired, but honestly, I was never really taught to cook. And I never took that desire to cook. It's just something that it just never. I'm just hungry. When I'm hungry, I want to eat. I don't want to prepare anything. And it's wrong for me to think that way, but I rather actually pay a nutritionist. Hey, nutritionist, if you're listening, hey, I'm the guy to talk to, because I will pay you. I would rather everything be set and I just come and pick what I want to do and be good. And I'm always been that way. I've always been that way. So yeah, that's pretty much me to a nutshell. So about 3 or 4 of those type of meals a day. And I try to limit, the buying up so much of the Uber stuff as much as possible, and the fast food as much as possible.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you must get to know your Uber drivers pretty well. Your delivery people.
Bad. Yeah, it's bad. They know me. Like, it's, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, they probably have a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
The final ingredient I wanted to ask before we go is about your sleep, because you were saying that, your sleep isn't great, and my sleep is fucked up as well. Although my whole thing is, I kind of just get into bed sometime after like 1 midnight or 1, and then I'll usually stay up even for another couple hours. And I'm so anxious when I wake up in the morning. That's like when my anxiety is really bad, that I often stay in the bed until noon or later before I even start my day, because I'm like not paralyzed, but I'm just like kind of just coming into the day. The one thing I'm more grateful for than any other thing about owning my own business and kind of being just an independent entrepreneur is I don't wake up to an alarm, and I never will. Like it's just not gonna be a thing for me, and unless it absolutely has to be. So that is really important to me, because waking up gives me agita, and my schedule would have to be a lot better if I had to live to that, but I thankfully don't. That's why I schedule everything for this afternoon. Like,
I love it, bro. No, you're on fire. I think this is a great question. This is also the other Achilles heel, which is the sleep, right? And one, I'm a night owl by nature. I have some of my best thoughts, some of my best brainstorming is at night. My best planning is at night. So And then, like you said, gaming, right? Gaming at night is so fun to me. And I think what happens is I have this push pull where I don't want to stop. It's like, yo, man, you work so hard. Man, you deserve to play this for 4 or 5 hours. You deserve to be but you're like, hey, you got to get up at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. in the morning. You're going to pay for this. You having fun now. So it's that internal battle. And then unlike you, right? Obviously, ILP and all that stuff is not at that level yet. So I can do that, full time and do LSM full time with you, So there is the battle of the alarm clock. And you made such an important point there, because I think with me, that anxiety that I know I have to get up at that time, that alarm clock's going to go and you got to go to work, right? So that's the struggle, right? To discipline yourself to say, okay, you worked out, you did all this stuff. You've got to get better rest. You got to get at least 6 to 7 hours minimum, right? And sometimes I'll go in pockets where it's not bad. I'll fully admit this is my problem. Where I go in, even people on Twitter like, what are you doing up? They'll hit me. They'll see me clicking like or something or whatever. And they're like, bro, what you doing? I'm like, I was playing the Tekken 8 beta, closed network tech on PlayStation. I'm having a lot of fun. I don't want to stop.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know what I'm saying? I got to be honest. Like, this was my thing. And I know I'm going to do my penance. I got to pay for it. But it's really that balance. And what I've learned to do is say, okay, one, you did that, but you cannot do that consistently. Part of this whole health is wealth thing is you have to get good rest. When you get good rest, and here's the key difference. This is what I know. I had to make changes. When I'm on 7 to 8 hours of sleep, or even 6, my energy level, what I bring to podcasting, whatever I do, interact, I'm a different person. If I come in on 3 and 4, I'm very irritable. I'm not my normal self. It affects my mood completely. It affects my productivity. I'm tired. I don't want to. I'm less engaged. Everything about me is different. And once I seen that, and I'm like, look, I can't consistently be this way because I'm not being my best self to perform to the best of my level at the things I need to. And that's when I had to change it. So yeah, it's a battle. There are days where clearly I mess up, but there's also time where I'm like, okay, just like I have to earn it. I have to earn. No, bro, these are 2 sleep days. You got to get this back to back. You have been really burning the candle on both ends, and this is not healthy. And also, you can feel it on your heart. You can feel tightness. You can feel something's off, right? And again, it affects the blood pressure. All of this is
they
cyclical.
call that sleep debt, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my strength. So that's what that's always the battle. I'm not perfect, but I know that's what I have to improve, and I consistently will improve. So yeah, that's what it is. I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, it's because you had brought it up. I wrote it down in my notes in the very beginning because you brought up sleep, diet, and exercise. I was like, yeah, sleep, of course. I mean, I think that my sleep schedule has gone in my adult life, from very responsible, the gauntlet from responsible to totally wildly irresponsible. I was, my previous relationship was with an ER nurse, and she worked nights, so it obliterated my schedule, just absolutely obliterated it. But then I was with, a woman in the past that I lived with where she worked at 6 or 7 in the morning. So I'd be in bed at 10, and then I would get up without an alarm clock. That was during my IGN days. You would just get up. That's because I'm so anxious and so tied up like a knot. It's I'm just waiting for the alarm anyway. I might as well get up. But I've definitely found, it's perfectly sensible. That's the whole thing about sleep debt. I always thought that meant the sleep that you're trying to catch up on. But apparently what that means, as I understand it, is it's the way your body, the sacrifices your body has to make when you don't sleep.
Yes.
And so of course, I mean, I crawled into Kind of Funny recordings with no sleep before. I
know the life.
Yeah. And I love being up at night. I enjoy that. It's something that's, I feel, because my anxiety works the opposite of most anxiety, which people's anxiety usually gets worse throughout the day. My anxiety gets better throughout the day, as I've said many times, which is not unprecedented, but strange. And so by the time you get to the night, I'm I don't want to, I feel normal right now.
I feel good right now. I'm with you.
By the time post dinner and I'm I've eaten and I've smoked and I've hung out. That's one thing I wanted to say in passing too, was and I wonder if you have any vices or anything, is that health vices is the marijuana consumption is obviously high. It has been for a long time. I'm not proud of it. And it's unclear what it does to our bodies. And I read about it fairly often to see like what people are saying, like what the new research was. And there are like these landmark studies, one from UCLA in 2004 and these others that indicate all these different things, right? Like one major argument amongst people is like if there was for instance, a casualty, if there was going to be a major lung problem, for instance, with marijuana consumption, then baby boomers would be suffering from lung cancer from marijuana consumption, so like things like that. Or if there were, but is it adding to mental problems? Does it cause Alzheimer's? Does it cause dementia and all those kinds of things? So it's not something I recommend, but it's like my vice and something that that was at one time something I did for fun that then became something that helped bring me down and solidify my mood. I would like to smoke less, and I'm working on smoking less, but it's not that's something I must admit. Like I'm not a health freak in that regard at all. And then I love to drink. I just don't drink very much anymore. I actually had Micah. Micah does the food shopping, and so I write things on notes to her. And I had an unusual request. It was like, can you get a 12-pack of this IPA I really like? Because it's the summertime. It was mega hot the last week, right? And I was just reading a book in the pool and drinking, but I just have like one beer at a time. And they're like 7%, so you feel a little buzzed because I don't drink very much unless I go out. That will really add the pounds if you let it. And especially if you drink heavier beer like I do. And liquor, of course, is not good for you either. But so I really try to limit that to when I go out to eat. And that's, once every few weeks or whatever. Otherwise, I try to not let that be a vice. And then I don't smoke cigarettes or anything like that. I like cigars, but I don't really smoke them very often. I did go through like a 1.5 or 2 year period where I smoked clove cigarettes, probably from 2006 to 2008. So like late college, early IGN, but that was, I don't know what that was all about. So yeah, otherwise that's kind of like the little vices. And I've never done hard drugs or anything, so that's not something I'd obviously recommend to anyone either. But what about these like kind of these extraneous things?
Yeah, the vices. Good one. We talked about a little bit on a constellation. I think it was me, you, and Gene. I was never, weed for whatever reason just never had much of an effect on me. I was also the guy that, not that I never tried it, but I was just also the guy that like, hey, I'm getting your contact high, but I'm not really lit, and it didn't do anything for me. Smoking never appealed to me. So that was that. But drinking is a problem. Now, I'm not a person, I don't consider myself a drunk. I don't consider myself a person that has liquor in the house. I can't drink at home by myself. I just, that doesn't really resonate with me. But I'm a social guy. I'm a social butterfly. You put me out around people. I'm a networking type person. And at these events, there's going to be liquor.
Yeah, you got to lubricate.
Yeah, you got exactly. You're going to have to do this. So for me, I'm also like a fun drunk. So people are like, yo, we like to hang around Kyle because he's fun when he's got a little buzz going on kind of thing. And my tolerance is high. Even when I was smaller, like people love to drink with me because they like, yo, he's just throwing them back. Now, I was never the beer guy. Definitely hard liquor, rum, bourbon, Scott. Like there's really not much. That's another problem. Like there wasn't much liquor I didn't like. So it was like, if you had vodka, you had tequila. The only thing that I had the worst, what you want to call it, bender or anything that really set me back, and to this day I'm terrified. The one that it tastes like black licorice. It's a shot.
Why can't I think it's German?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Why can't I think of it? It's so crazy.
Oh my, Jaeger,
right? Jägermeister. Yeah, jeez Louise, that was crazy.
Bro, Jaeger and me, we do not have a good friendship. Nope. It was a one-time relationship. It was a fling, and that was it. I was destroyed. People, they had to go get me. That's the worst I've ever been. I was like, nah, I can't do that. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, Fireball, all you name it, I've done it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is. And the key for me, which is like, okay, look, this is counterproductive to all this workout you're doing. Because what will happen is, you do too much, all that dehydrates you. That's the hangover. That's the serious headache the next morning. And then it's like you got to do, pounding water just to kind of keep up and kind of balance yourself out. Then you've lost all this. You're not getting good rest while you woke up from like having a crazy night out and stuff like that. So the key, one, is moderation. Two, what I've done is I did eliminate beer a little bit because it just, on my belly, it really sit on me because I like Stella, I like IP, I like all that stuff, but I just had to kind of push that away. So now it was like, okay, I do like a vodka cranberry, or I'll do like a rum or bourbon and stuff like that, and I'm good. So obviously in moderation. Also, the tricks I would do is if you're going to go out drinking, drink water, then drink. So it was that interval. So it's not like drink, Like you just have 4 or 5 in a row. I'd make sure I incorporate water, and that would kind of lessen it. If I know I'm in a situation where, okay, you're going to be drinking, this is what's going on tonight. I'm at, one of these events or whatever. That's all that's going on there. It's going to happen sometimes. So you just know how to prepare for it. But it's one of those things now. It's like maybe one event every 2 months kind of thing, but I just prepared. I know what I got to do. And the key for me now that I've been, because of diverticulitis, one of the things that you have to do, I mean, you talked about it, is your water intake has to be even higher. And I thought I drank a lot of water prior. No, I was incorrect. I have to at least have no minimum like 60 to 70 ounces per day. And see how you're living with that smart water. Like I have to live with the same. Like I have to have it.
Yeah, this is what is this, 20? Oh no, this is 30. This is 33 ounces. So you would need to drink like 2.5 of these.
2.5 of that. Think that's it. That's a lot. So what I've now, my new tricks now, and this all coincides with drinking how things have minimized, which is soon as I get up now, before I would do the whey protein, like I was in my building stage, weightlifting. Now I'm drinking a whole 20 ounce of water. It's like the first thing, get that. So I'm already starting the day, setting the tone for the rest of the water. But I do the Colin, which is, all right, you've had all this water, but with my meal, my dinner, I am not doing water. Yeah. I'm going to treat myself to, even if it's sparkling or something with flavor or juice, something.
Gotta have something. You gotta.
Yeah, I can't, because then I'm miserable. Like I'm not going to be a miserable.
It's just not right for people to drink. Oh, I'm good with water. It's like, what are you talking about? You're good with water. Who the hell wants water with their meals?
I can't do it. That's what me and you are completely identical. So that's my thing. And then and then I compensate with the rest of the water all day. So with all this water intake, basically it helps with any potential vice or situation I'm going through, because now I'm so conditioned to have so much more water involved with everything.
And also the drinking thing is just at the end of the night, I don't really get very drunk anymore at all. But when I did, I would drink as much water as I could possibly stand. Like I would, and I'd get up to pee probably like 3 times in the first hour, like before I even fell asleep. But it's like, you're doing yourself a great service right now. Trust me, you're doing yourself a great service. That was actually something that Damon Hatfield, when I was in Germany once with him at IGN, I was staying like in a room with him, and he's like, "You're so drunk, like just keep drinking water, like keep going, like you got to drink more." And it worked. And I expected to get up for my appointment in 5 hours, just fucked, and I got up and I was fine. And I was like, wow. And so I really took that to heart. And I haven't had a blackout probably since like 2010 or 2011. So that's something to be proud of too. If you're drinking to blackout, then you definitely have a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem.
You should definitely look into
that. Shout out to Jaeger. That was my blackout situation. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've gone on a bit here. I mean, I thought this was fun, and I think insightful. I hope, first of all, I think people will enjoy the conversation regardless, but I hope it touched on something that someone out there, and I think many people out there will resonate with, whether it's, are you getting a little too heavy for your liking? Are you not eating as well as you should be? Are you eating too much? Are you not getting out there and exercising? Why aren't you going outside and walking, or going to your local gym? Or I know this is I'm very lucky to have a pool, but even your local pool, like swimming is so good for you. And I try to get out there every day and just dick around out there in that way. Like I just want people to be moving. I want people to be thinking about that, and then earning, like you said, the game time and the leisure time for whatever else too. I know a lot of people don't have this luxury because they have kids and all these kinds of things, and we're childless, and we don't have those things to worry about. And I understand that, but I think people can always find the time to take good care of themselves. And I think once you start seeing and feeling the results, you'll be happy. And also know, as I hope I've tried to humanize it enough to know that it's, for many of us, it still feels like a losing battle. Like, and so like it probably always feels like that. You have to work and maintain everything. That's hard. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, Cog. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and thank you for sharing all of your knowledge with us.
No, absolutely, brother. And thank you for you saw how quickly I responded when I got that email from you. Like I was like, man, I'm so glad you mentioned this. I've been wanting to talk about this more. And your platform is awesome. LSM, our family. Listen, we got one of the best communities. We have to admit. Like, and what I like is, even if it's a small thing towards any of these things, whether it be your diet, weight training, fitness, health, walking, whatever, therapy, right? All the gamut of subjects we covered. The key is the attempt, right? Just make the attempt, even if you're like, oh, damn, but I didn't do anything, but you got out there. It was better than what the alternative was, right? And that's the key that I'll try to stress. And you just take your little incremental steps, and you just build. And remember, that's what's good for you. Don't try. A lot of mistake is we try to compare ourselves to others and how good they're doing. You have to look at your situation personally and just say, hey, at least I'm making the necessary steps to attempt to correct something. And that's the key. And you start to build on those journeys and stuff like that. And I think it's important in our community. I think it's important to earn, the right to game. We're all gamers. We love this hobby. And I also think that health is wealth, literally, because we need to be around. We have to value it the way we value anything else. If we do that, we take the necessary steps, we can live longer and a little bit better in our lives. So I'm glad we had this discussion. This was dope.
Yeah, well said, Cog. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support. We'll see you next time for more Sacred Symbols Plus and Defying Duke Ultimate and all the other shows that you enjoy. We appreciate your support on Patreon. LastStandMedia.store for merch. All right, that's it. Till next time. Bye. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.